Hello everyone, Sandrak here. In today's video, I'll be telling you almost every single way to build the character Zhongli. Before we get started, I'm new to YouTube. If you like the content, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It will mean a lot to me and it will help me grow my channel. So first of all, let's take a look at Zhongli's stats. Compared to normal characters, Zhongli tends to have a lot of HP. His attack is normally on the lower side. And then as for his talent ascension stats, he ascends with geo damage bonus, which automatically makes him in the role of a support and sub DPS. However, there are roles to build him as a physical DPS, we'll talk about that later. Now let's take a look at his talents. His normal attack is just like any other polearm character, in this case 6 consecutive strikes, and unlike some characters like Xiao and Rosaria who tends to swing all around them, his polearm attacks tends to be always aiming forward. His plunge attack is different from all other polearm users. He will disappear from the screen, and then there will be a line of stone spears raining down from his current location and aiming forward, and then he will appear at the end of the animation. His plunging attack is just like any other polearm characters. He jumps from mid-air and spins with his polearm pointing at the ground. For his elemental skill Dominus Lapidus, there are two ways to use this skill. When you press it, it will create a stone steel which will resonate with any geo construct around it or with itself every 1 second or so, and when it pulses, it will deal geo damage to nearby enemies. Whenever you hold his elemental skill, it will create a shield. However, if there is less than the maximum number of stone steels allowed to be present on the field, one stone steel will get created in front of you. The stone steel will do the same as the tapping stone steel, so both pulsing damage and the initial creation damage, and his shield will do the initial creation damage, and his shield scales off his base HP. For his ultimate burst, Planet Befall, he will summon a giant meteor which falls on the field, deals massive geo damage, and also applies petrification. The length of the petrification depends on the skill level, going from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. Now let's take a look at his two passives, which is very useful to work together with his kit. His first passive, which unlocks at level 20, is when the Jade's shield, which he creates by holding his E or elemental skill, when it takes damage, it will petrify. Petrification will happen. There is no timer for petrification, so theoretically, if you are stepping on fire, you can petrify immediately up to 5 times. Every single time the shield petrifies, the shield strength will increase by 5%, and then it will last until the end of the duration when the shield either breaks or expires. His second passive is very helpful towards him dealing damage. This is also the buff to him that was added after patch 1.3. Essentially, all of his damage except his elemental burst is scaled by 1.39% of his max HP, and then for his elemental burst it is scaled up to 33% of his max HP. Because of this unique setup, it essentially means for Zhongli, if you're building him to do a lot of damage with his ultimate, or if you are building him to have a strong shield, you are going for HP. But everything else, as currently the math has suggested, attack will give you more damage than HP. Finally, there is his third passive, which refunds you 15% when crafting polearm type weapons. I will briefly touch on his constellation, however, as a lot of us probably do not have any constellations on him, so I'll go over this section very quickly. His constellation 1 essentially allows you to create 1 extra stone steel, which is very useful in a lot of cases because it allows double the geo resonance damage. However, since there can only be 3 maximum geo constructs on the field, if you're running a geo resonance team that mainly does damage through his stone steel resonating with other geo constructs, this does not take a lot. This constellation does not add a lot to your damage, as MC Stone Pillars and Albedo's Elevator, Ningguang's Jade Screen all count as geo constructs. His second constellation is, in my opinion, his biggest spike in terms of usefulness towards co-op playing. For his second constellation, whenever you deal damage using his ult, you will get a Jade shield. Any character that is near you will also get a shield. This will happen in co-op. So essentially in co-op, you're pretty much guaranteed to give a Jade shield to everyone after you use your ult. But given the time and energy requirement for his ult, you can pretty much ensure your entire team is shielded at almost all times. His third constellation and his fifth constellation is increasing the damage of his elemental skill and elemental burst respectively, so we will not touch on too much about that. His fourth constellation also helps with the crowd control aspect of his kit. It will increase the Planet Befall's AoE range by 20% and also increase the petrification effect by 2 seconds. Which means if you have him at level 10, it will increase the petrification effect up to 5 seconds, which is the maximum. His sixth constellation essentially turns him into a healer. After his Jade screen takes damage, 40% of the damage taken will be converted to HP, which will be added to your current active character. However, this cannot exceed 8% of that character's max HP. But even with the 8% restriction, this is very good, especially if you're playing co-op or just solo. It gives him the ability to play healer on top of having a very strong shield. It basically makes him unkillable in some situations. With that out of the way, now let's talk about some of the good artifacts that can be used on Zhongli on his different builds. Gladiator, the 4-piece Gladiator, used to be a staple for Zhongli during his physical DPS build. However, it is no longer used because the Pale Flame set is designed specifically for physical DPS and will definitely outshine the Gladiator when if you decide to play Zhongli physical DPS. Noblesse Oblige is one of the better sets for Zhongli. The 2-piece allows him to boost his burst damage even further on top of all the extra damage multipliers he's getting. And the 4-piece of the Noblesse Oblige allows him to support his team while also giving the 2-piece benefit on his ultimate. Retracing Bolide is another option used by Zhongli when playing physical DPS. It is also the reason which enabled the Retracing Bolide DPS setup, because essentially Zhongli can give anyone the shield and you can switch to that character will have the shield equipped, and then if that character also has the 4-piece Bolide benefit on, that will ensure a lot of damage boost from normal and charged attacks. Archaic Petra is the set designed specifically for Geo characters, so of course Zhongli can use it. However, Zhongli never seems to be able to utilize the 4-piece of the Archaic Petra because it is impossible for Zhongli to pick up a shield that is of the Geo element, so he will not be able to gain a 35 damage bonus. Tenacity of the Millelith is Zhongli's personal best artifact set. It is specifically designed for him, both the 2-piece and the 4-piece. It allows him to no longer use Noblesse Oblige, so essentially on your team you can have Zhongli having 4-piece Tenacity of the Millelith, and another character having 4-piece Noblesse and having 2 stacks of that attack increase on all your characters when both 4-piece effects are active. Pale Flame is the new set designed for physical DPS, so of course, if you want to play Zhongli physical DPS, this is the set to go. With the artifacts out of the way, let's talk about how most of the weapons will perform on Zhongli and how to build him differently for each weapon. Staff of Homa is of course the best weapon for Zhongli in case of everything, because this weapon basically buffs every aspect of Zhongli. First of all, it increases HP, 40 to 20% depending on your refinement, but either way this will directly buff all of his damage as everything Zhongli does scales off HP. On top of that, Homa itself will also scale another 0.8 to 1.6% onto his attack, which further buffs his attack. And Homa also has the very crucial substats of critical damage, which scales up to 66.2%, which is insane. It liberates a lot of stress from Zhongli when during building his kit to stack up enough crit damage, which allows you to completely stack on crit rate and have a very nice crit rate. Vortex Vanquisher is Zhongli's lore weapon. It is generally used when you need Zhongli's shield because it buffs his shield, and the attack substats is not the best on him. However, in most cases, if you're doing direct damage, like using pillars and normal attacks, attack does scale better than HP, so in those cases you will want to use the Vortex Vanquisher. Skyward Spine, the passives other than the crit rate increase is not very useful for Zhongli. However, the energy recharge substats does allow Zhongli to spam his ult. So if you're looking for ult spam build, Skyward Spine would be a good 5-star weapon. Primordial Jade Wind Spear is the lore weapon for Xiao. However, it works extremely well on Zhongli, especially if you're building him as a physical DPS who stands on the field most of the time. All the stacks works great with his kit, and then again, it has the very crucial substats of crit rate, which liberates you from having to stack a lot on crit rate during artifact building. Lithic Spear is a very nice 4-star weapon for Zhongli, however I would only recommend it if you're building Zhongli as a physical DPS, as for others builds there are better weapons in slot than that. Dragonspine Spear is generally not recommended for Zhongli, as the other 4-star polearm, Crescent Pike, also having physical damage bonus, will outdamage Dragonspine Spear in almost all situations, and both of them are craftable. So if you can craft Dragonspine Spear, you can craft Crescent Pike. And the Crescent Pike outshines Dragonspine Spear in almost every aspect when it comes to playing physical DPS Zhongli. Royal Spear is generally not recommended because you have to hit an opponent for the crit rate to increase, and also the attack substats, as said before, is not very useful on Zhongli because his attack is rather low. Favonius Lance and the prototype Starglitter are both two weapons that pretty much does the same job. Both of their passives gives them energy particles. However, in most cases, Favonius Lance does a better job at particle generation than Prototype Glitter. And they are both used for Zhongli's ult spam capabilities. So if you were to pick between the two, Favonius Lance would be better than Star-type Glitter. Dragonspine is highly not recommended for Zhongli, as Elemental Mastery will only increase the strength of the shield. However, Zhongli creates his own Jade shield, which does not scale off Elemental Mastery at all, so there is no point for you to use the Dragonspine on Zhongli. Blackcliff pole is not a bad choice to get if you do not have any other weapons. It allows for crit damage stacking, which liberates you from having to stack a lot of critical damage when it comes to artifact building. However, the passive is not very useful on Zhongli. Deathmatch is the same for Blackcliff pole, both of which stacks crit. In this case, Deathmatch stacks crit rate instead of crit damage. However, the advantage of Deathmatch over Blackcliff pole is that for Deathmatch, the passive of increasing attack does work on Zhongli. Of course, it will not work great because Zhongli's base attack is very low. However, attack increase is still attack increase. White Tassel is generally not recommended for Zhongli because it's a 3-star weapon, and if you have White Tassel, you probably have Black Tassel, which is the better version. The same goes with Halberd because it is a 3-star weapon, it is generally not recommended. If you have to build Zhongli with a 3-star weapon, it is highly recommended to use the Black Tassel, which builds on top of HP, which allows you to scale everything off of that. With the weapons out of the way, let's talk about the 6 most common builds for Zhongli. Of course, this does include some of the less common builds, and I believe this is every single possible way there is currently in game to build Zhongli. So first, let's start with the shield support. You can read the description, but I will summarize here. Basically, for shield support, all you want to do is create the strongest shield possible. You do not care about his normal attacks, and for his ultimate, you're only using it for the effect of the petrification. In this case, since his shield solely scales off HP, all your main stats should be HP, HP percent Goblet, HP percent Sands, HP percent Circlet. And as for your artifacts, the two artifacts that helps with shield directly and indirectly are Bolide. The 2-piece increases the shield strength, and Tenacity of the Millelith. The 2-piece increases the HP, which indirectly increases shield strength. For his weapons, of course, Staff of Homa is the best choice for everything. If you do not have that, I would actually recommend Black Tassel over most 4-star weapons if you only want him for his shield, because Black Tassel is the only weapon other than Staff of Homa that has the substats of HP percent. Vortex Vanquisher is here because the passive has the shield increase. However, consider most of you probably don't own this weapon. Black Tassel is probably your best bet when it comes to building shield support if you do not own any 5-star weapons. And as for his talents, of course, shield comes from his elemental skill, so you want to level that up first. Next, you want to level up Planet Befall, which helps with the petrification, and if you have the resources, you will want to level up normal attack last, because that is the last thing you would care about when it comes to building Zhongli shield support. Now let's talk about how to maximize the other aspect of his elemental skill, the pillars. So in this build, Zhongli is generally paired with another Geo character who can create one or more Geo construct, and Zhongli's main damage comes from Geo construct. Again, elemental burst is only here for petrification, and in this case, given that Zhongli's pillar scales off attack, so Zhongli will have a decent attack rate when it comes to normal attacking. However, normal attacking is not the focus here. Since Zhongli's pillars counts as geo damage, you would of course want the Petra set. There are currently no other set that buffs Zhongli's pillar damage in this game currently, so you can pick between 3 sets of which buffs the different aspect of Zhongli's support. 2-piece Noblesse buffs Zhongli's ult damage by 20%, 2-piece Bolide buffs Zhongli's shield strength, and 2-piece Tenacity buffs Zhongli's HP, which in turn indirectly buffs Zhongli's shield strength. As for main stats of the artifacts here, Goblet you want to go geo damage because Zhongli's pillars is dealing geo damage. Sands, again, HP percent is okay here, however if you want more damage, attack percent will do more damage here. And finally, for Circlet, you want to go crit rate or crit damage. It mostly depends on your build. You will want a minimum of 50% crit rate and 100% crit damage. And you would always want to keep crit rate to crit damage in a 1:2 ratio. As for weapons, again, Staff of Homa is the best in slot. Vortex Vanquisher is very useful here because it both increases the shield, which gives Zhongli more field standing time. The attack percent also works directly with increasing the damage of Zhongli's pillars, which is also good. Lithic Spear has the substats of attack percent. Its passive also increases attack, so it is very good here. Deathmatch and Blackcliff pole is generally used here to fill in the gap and liberate you from the stress of building artifacts. One increases the crit rate, the other one increases the crit damage, both of which are good. When it comes to artifact building, it gives you a lot of room to stack on attack. If you have to use a 3-star weapon here, Black Tassel and Halberd is the very good choice here, both of which helps with his build. Black Tassel helps with attack percent, and Halberd helps with crit rate. As for his talents, again, you are utilizing your elemental skill the most, so you will want to level that up first. Then you want to level up your burst for petrification, and last you want to level up your normal attack. Now let's talk about the last element in his kit, his elemental burst. This is burst DPS build, which is also most of the time called the alt spam build. In this build, his main source of damage will come from Elemental Burst, and Pillars will also be used here, but it's mainly used to recharge energy for his ultimate. If you're not aware, when Zhongli holds his E when creating the shield, he does not gain any Elemental Particles. The only way Zhongli can gain Elemental Particles is from his Pillar pulsing and hitting nearby enemies, and also from him normal attacking. So Pillars are very crucial here to recharge his ult. And since Planet Befall scales off HP directly, 33%, so his shield and his HP will also be very strong in this case. As for his artifacts, of course you want the Noblesse set, which buffs his burst damage by 20% further, and Tenacity scales off HP, which indirectly buffs his burst damage. Petra gives you geo damage bonus, which also buffs his burst damage as his burst is considered geo damage. As for the main stat, you will want to go with geo damage. Substats, HP percent is better here because you do not care about the damage from the pillars, and his ultimate scales off 33% of his max HP. So HP is definitely the better choice here. And again, for circlet, crit rate or crit damage. For his weapons, Staff of Homa, of course, Skyward Spine is here because of its passive of energy recharge and also its passive of giving a better crit rate. Favonius Lance and Star type Glitter are both used for its energy recharge and its passive for giving particles. Deathmatch and Blackcliff Pole are here to stack on crit rate and crit damage to help you with your artifact build, and Black Tassel is used here to purely stack off HP percent, which in turn boosts your ultimate damage. As for your talents, of course, ultimate is your main source of damage, you want to go with that first. Pillars are needed next because it is used to recharge your ultimate, and of course last you will want to go with normal attack. For this build, your normal attack will not do a lot of damage. Now this is a mix between the previous 3 builds. It is considered normally a sub DPS build, but I personally like to call it the all-round support build. It has a bit of everything, but it specializes in nothing. So it is basically the build when you want to build when you don't know what type of situation you will be taking your Zhongli into. So in this build, his pillar will do some damage, his ultimate will do some damage, and his normal attack will also be able to do some damage. As for the sets, there are 3 considerations you can choose. The 4-piece Tenacity of the Millelith and the 4-piece Noblesse Oblige are both used to support the rest of the team, as both of their 4-piece benefits buffs the entire team after you use your ultimate or after your pillar hits enemies. If you want to be more selfish and just build him as towards the more sub DPS part of this, you will want to build 2-piece Noblesse, which does increase damage on the ultimate, and 2-piece Petra, which increase both the damage on the ultimate and the pillars. For his main stats, you will want to go Geo Damage Goblet, of course, as most of his stuff other than his physical normal attacks counts as Geo Damage. For the stands, you can choose between attack percent or HP percent. If you are leaning heavier towards the shield and the ultimate, you want to go HP percent. If you use more normal attack and his pillars, you want to go attack percent. Circular is very straightforward, you want to go crit. As for his weapons, Homa is again scales, it increases the damage on everything, so it's good. Vortex Vanquisher again scales increases his shield strength, which is good for his support aspect, and also increases his damage on his pillar, and also it does not scale as much, but it still increases damage on his burst. Jade Wind Spear is used here if you mostly want to make him stand on the field, as Jade Wind Spear is only useful if you're able to pull off multiple stacks. Lithic is used here again because of its attack substats and its passive for giving attacks. Deathmatch and Blackcliff Pole are here for building crit. Crescent Pike and Dragonspine Spear are new here. These two gives physical damage bonus substats. It is good for physical DPS Zhongli, however it is used here if you lean towards a Zhongli that does more physical damage but also uses pillar and ultimate. Favonius Lance and Star type Glitter are used if you do not have enough energy recharge to use your ultimate. However, if you use any of these 2 weapons, your main attack will be very weak. Now it comes to the territory of the physical DPS Zhongli. So this is the more all-around physical DPS build. His main source of damage will come from his normal attacks. However, for this build, you are still able to maintain a very strong shield, and also your other damage will be okay. So for artifact set, the only recommendation is 4-piece Bolide. The 2-piece increases shield strength. The 4-piece, when you have a shield active, your normal and charge attacks are buffed. So for main stats, for Goblet here, because now we're doing physical DPS, you want to go physical damage. Sands, again, we don't care about the ultimate here, so you want to go attack instead of HP, and Circlet again is crit. So for Staff of Homa, it is very good because it buffs everything. Vortex Vanquisher and Jade Wind Spear is the same deal as before, buffs shield. As for Jade Wind Spear, it is actually the best weapon here because it has you are using Zhongli constantly on the field, so you are able to utilize all 7 stacks at almost all times. Between Crescent Pike and Dragonspine Spear, these are both used for physical damage, for their physical damage bonus substats, but as I've said before, Crescent Pike will outdamage Dragonspine Spear in almost all parts, unless you have significantly higher refinements on Dragonspine Spear. Deathmatch and Blackcliff Pole are both useful here for their substats. Deathmatch is of course recommended over Blackcliff Pole because of the passives of adding attack, and honestly I do not recommend building Zhongli physical DPS if you do not have a 4-star polearm. However, if you really want to, Halberd will be the one to use for the 3-star weapon. As for his talents, of course you want to go your normal attacks first. Secondary would want to be Elemental Burst because that does increase the petrification time, so that also allows you to push out more damage as you don't have to dodge enemy attacks if your shield is already broken. And last, you want to increase the level of your pillars. This is the last build on Zhongli. So this is called the Glass Cannon DPS. It is another physical DPS build. However, this one maximizes physical DPS to the extreme, up to the point where it does not care about any of the other. It does not care about the shield, and it does not care about the overall HP, nor does it care about the pillars and the ultimate. So for this build, the best set used to be 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Bloodstained. 2-piece Gladiator gives 18% attack, and 2-piece Bloodstain increases physical damage by 25%. However, now the new Pale Flame set is out. The best artifacts for Glass Cannon DPS Zhongli becomes Pale Flames. The 2% buffs physical damage bonus, which covers for the Bloodstain's 2-piece effect, and the 4-piece, which is very easy to get because you just need to stack your elemental skill on enemy twice. Zhongli's pillars hit enemy about once per second, so 2 seconds into you putting a pillar, you will be able to get a 4-piece effect, which not only increases your attack by 18%, it also increases your 2-piece effect, which is the physical damage bonus by another 25%. As for main stats, like the normal physical build, you want to go physical damage bonus, attack percent sense, crit circlet. And for weapons, as before, you will want to look for something that has attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, or physical damage bonus on. And for talents, of course, normal attack will go first, and then you will go for Planet Befall to increase the petrification time. And last, you will want to go for the pillars. Now, before we end the video, I just want to talk about 2 quick tips on how to speed up Zhongli's cycle time if you're playing him as a co-op in a domain where the only character you can use is Zhongli. So of course his normal attack goes up to 6 strikes, and you can animation cancel out of them at any time by pressing the jump key. However, there is a way to increase his damage. Essentially, you start with his 5 strikes. As he's kicking the spear, you hold down the mouse button, which essentially makes him do a charge attack. This will essentially cancel his last, his 6th strike, and then replaces that with a charge attack. This is very useful because his normal attacks 6 times tends to hit enemies away from you, and the charge attack allows you to speed up to them. So you'll be right in front of the enemy again after 1 cycle, so you're able to do more damage. The other way to animation cancel is again during his spear kicking stage. Essentially, when he starts kicking his spear, you can do whatever mouse keyboard combination you want, and then he'll continue doing damage while the next command will be executed. So in this case, the other way to do it is to use his shield while he starts spear kicking, which does really help speed up the time. So I'll show that real quick here. So as you can see, not long after he finishes kicking his spear, the shield pillar is already up, whereas normally if you hold it, it will take about a second before the pillar and his shield can become active. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching till the end. If you like the content, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm new to YouTube, so your subscription will help me a lot in growing the channel. Thank you and have a nice day.